Hello guys, welcome to my new exciting tutorial. If you are using 3D Studio Max, this is the second video in the series on creating pro-level animation, motion design and visual effects. Today I'm gonna show you how to create this scene with 3D Studio Max and Chroma rendering. In this tutorial you will learn to set up animation curves, configure the camera and apply effective lighting techniques. Make sure to subscribe and like the video so you don't miss the series. If you are ready, let's get started.
First of all, we need to create the box in the middle. Set all dimensions to 40 centimeters. The pivot point is currently at the bottom of the box. We need to move it to the center of the model. For this, go to the hierarchy panel, activate Affect Pivot Only, and then click Center to Object. Then turn it off. As you can see, the pivot center has changed. Now we need to increase the number of segments on each side. We will come back to why we did this. But for now, just go to the Modify section and apply a chamfer modifier. This is to make the corners of the model smoother. For better accuracy, increase the number of segments. More segments will give you a softer look, but it doesn't have to be too many. Maybe 7 is enough. Now bring the model to the center. For this, set the X and Y values to 0. Now let's move on to the animation step. I usually work at 30 frames per second and you can adjust it in the time configuration settings. So make sure that NTSC is selected. Next, I will show you how we can animate it. We have several methods to do this. Generally, I use this method. Move the time slider to the last frame, then turn on Alt key and let's move the box to its final position in the animation. Okay. Then turn off Alt key. You can now see the animation in action. If you want the animation to look smoother and more professional, we need to follow a few more steps. For this step, right-click and open the curve editor. As you can see, the bezels of the first and last keyframes are smooth. Let's resize the curve editor window so we can also see the perspective view and better understand the result. If we select the first keyframe from the timeline, we can see the bezier of the selected keyframes in the curve editor. This is also valid for the last keyframe. Now again, select the first frame. I want to show you how the beziers affect the animation. This is one of the key principles and I will cover all the small details and tricks so you can clearly understand the basics. Set the first frame to linear and press play. Start again. Let's also set the last keyframe to linear to understand it better. And here is the result. Without the smooth bezier, as you can see, it almost looks like an infinite loop because it finishes at the same speed it begins. To understand it better, I will set the time range to 40 frames in the time configuration. And let's play it again. Now we can see it more clearly. This time, make the bezier smooth. And play it again. As you can see, it starts and ends smoothly. Let's set the time range to 100 frames. Okay. Now if we want to create an infinite loop animation, we need to add another keyframe by moving the model back to its starting position. We can do this manually, but I prefer to copy the first frame by holding the Shift button on the keyboard and moving it to the last frame you want. You can see the result. We need to set the last frame from the time configuration. It has to be equal to the last frame of our animation. Yes. Looks pretty good. With this technique, you can easily create a seamless loop animation. For a smoother result, select all the keyframes and then go to the curve editor. Click on the Scale Tangents Up function a few times. Let's scale it up again. I think now it looks amazing. Now let's make the animation more complex by adding rotation. So delete the last keyframe, right-click and select Rotate, then bring this time slider to the first frame, activate Alt key. Sorry, we need to bring the time slider back to the last frame. Simply rotate it in any direction you want. Nice. If you play the animation, you can see that something is wrong. That's because the position and rotation curves don't match. My advice is to select the start and last keyframes and reset all curves. When I look at the curve, I can't see the beziers of all keyframes. This is why in such cases, I recommend closing and reopening the curve editor. As you can see, all the animated parameters are now visible here. Click on Auto Bezier and increase the curve value by clicking Scale Tangents up several times. Now let's play the animation again. It looks much better now. To compare, we can simply duplicate this box. So first deactivate Auto key and move the box in any direction you want by holding the Shift key on the keyboard. Okay, now we need to reopen the Curve Editor panel to see the curves of the new box. Select the keyframes and set them to linear. Let's play it again. Here you can see the comparison. While the first animation is smooth, the second feels rough. Since we don't need the second box anymore, I'm deleting it. To make this animation more complex, we can add additional motions. But adding more keyframes to the one object may cause some problems in the next stage. Let's add a new rotation movement to our object. Activate Auto key and rotate it. As you can see, when we play it, the second rotation begins right after the first movement ends. However, if you want to make a professional animation, it's important to understand that each movement should begin before the previous one has completely finished. This ensures smoother motions and make the scene feel more natural. Delete the previous keyframe that created. For an easier method, you need to add helpers to the scene. So go to the helpers panel. Before that, turn off Auto key and add a dummy object to the scene. Use the Align tool to place it at the center of the box. Now we should link our box to this dummy. Here you can see when we move the dummy, the box also moves. Now bring the time slider to frame 30 and add a keyframe by clicking Set key. Bring the time slider to the frame where you want this movement to stop. Let's rotate the dummy in any direction you prefer. And then run the animation. We also need to edit the curves of this movement. Now reopen the curve editor and click one more time on Scale Tangents up. Now play it. To make the animation start a bit earlier, let's move the first keyframe forward to frame 20. It looks better now, and I also want to add morphing to this animation. As you can see from this preview, the box rotates and morphs in the sphere at the same time. To do this, open the Modify panel, find the Spherify modifier and apply it. As you can see, it has turned into a sphere. If you set the person to 0, it will turn back into a box again. Press F4 key to see the segments. I already told you that we need to increase the box segments. What happens if we set the segments to 1? Oh, sorry, maybe 2. Well, when we increase the person to 100, we can see that it looks too rough with low segments. That is why I said before it has to be around 20 to look smooth when we turn it into a sphere. Now let's integrate this morphing setup into the main animation. The easy way is to bring the slider to frame 20 and turn on Auto key, then increase the person to 1 and bring it to 0. A keyframe will also automatically create it on the first frame. So how can we delete it without deleting our main movement keyframes? Reopen the curve editor and look at the bottom for modified object. Open Spherify and you will find percent. Select the first frame here and delete it. Close the curve editor and move the time slider to frame 60. Set the person value to 100. Now select these keyframes and open the curve editor again. And go to the Spherify and open person value. Then click on Scale Tangents up one more time again to increase the Bezier amount. Let's play it again. Looks like we need to adjust the tangents slightly once again. Okay, now play it again. Everything looks okay, but I think something is a bit wrong. Yes, that's right, maybe our rotation angle is not proper. For this, I press Shift and H buttons to see the helper dummy. Move the slider to the last keyframe. Activate Auto key and rotate our dummy in the right direction. Yes, now it looks nice, but I think it still needs another 90-degree rotation. Press play. It looks perfect. Press Shift H again to hide the dummy. Now it's time to create the additional elements of our scene. As shown in the video, the main box is surrounded by many identical boxes. Let's create them. Press T on the keyboard to move to the top view. We don't need to create a new box. Just hold the Shift key, move the existing box forward and click OK. Since there are keyframes on it, so select these keyframes and delete. Also, as you remember, copied box was linked with dummy, so don't forget to unlink this. Press Shift H to unhide the dummy. You can see it. So click to unlink selection. You can see the new box doesn't move along with the dummy. Now press T to switch to the top view. We need to copy this box again to the bottom side using Shift Move again. Choose these boxes and use the Snap tool by S key. Align them to the center. Right-click and choose rotation. Hold Shift and create copies by rotating them. Press F4 button on the keyboard to see the segments. We don't need these unnecessary segments on these boxes, so we need to set the segments value to 1. Now activate Snap tool by pressing S and make copies of the boxes using Shift and Move. Since the process is the same, I will pass over this part quickly. When we play the animation, we can see that at the start the animated box passes through the other boxes. I think we need to delay rotation keyframe a little. So go to the curve editor. Just select the rotation keyframes and bring this to the frame 15. On playback the overlap is fixed, but now the movements look too messy. Press the Shift H to make the dummy visible again. Then select the keyframes and shift them forward. It seems to have helped a bit, but we still didn't get the result we want. Maybe we can move the first frame of the box rotation a little backward. Let's try it this way too. This time I think we need to slow down the takeoff speed of the box. For this, let's move the last frame of the box transform forward. Again, we can see a slight overlap here, which is normal. For that, let's move the starting keyframe a little forward as well. We still can't clearly see the next movement. It is possible to show these movements in a simple way, but I also wanted to show how to deal with the small problems that come up, so you don't get lost among the keyframes later on. We can move these keyframes a little forward. To make it easier, we first need to take the positions of the dummy's keyframes as a reference. Let's move it a little forward. When we play the animation, I can see that an additional rotation is making things complicated. For this, let's go to the curve editor and delete all the rotation parameters by selecting them. When we play it again, everything looks normal. But since we removed the rotation, the box now rises straight upward without rotating. That is why we need to add a new keyframe once the box already rises a bit, for example at frame 20. At this point the box should already be rotated, but since the next movement has already started, adjusting the rotation here might look tricky. So let's move the time slider to a point when the next movement hasn't started yet and activate Alt key. Then apply the rotation here. As you can see, the rotation works normally, but we need to move this keyframe to match the last position of the box. Now everything aligns perfectly. Let's open the curve editor again and increase the curve value with scale tangents up. Oh, I think forgot to select the starter keyframe, so let's select it and increase its value as well.
Now everything looks good. I think we can also move the dummy's keyframe slightly forward. Along with that, the Spherify keyframes must absolutely be aligned with the dummy's keyframes. To see which ones belong to Spherify, we open the curve editor, expand Spherify and drag those keyframes forward. If you want to extend the animation, you can increase the end frame in the time settings to any value you want. For example, set it to 90. Now you can move the keyframes further forward, but don't forget to also move the dummy's keyframe along with them. Since the animation is now longer, we also need to slow down the box rising speed. To do this, just move its last transform keyframe a bit further forward. And let's play it again. Everything looks pretty good, but it seems a small problem has appeared at the beginning. The box goes down slightly before moving up. Most likely this is a curve issue. Let's go to the curve editor, and as you can see, the problem is clearly visible here. I think we can simply delete these keyframes. Let's select and remove them, then play it again. Finally, we have got it working. The process may seem a bit difficult at first, but once you repeat it a few times, you will realize how simple it actually is. To make our scene look more dynamic, let's also add a camera movement. For this, first press the F key to switch to the front view and open the cameras panel. Since I usually use Corona renderer, I will select the Corona camera. I drag it from top to bottom. Then select the camera target and align it to the camera using the align tool so it's perfectly centered. After that, let's move it slightly downward. Now to look through the camera, press C key on the keyboard. Rotate the view a little to get a perspective angle. Pull the camera back and zoom with the field of view to achieve an isometric look. To better see the difference with perspective, I minimize the viewport by clicking on this icon and then press C again to switch to the camera view in any window. I do this so it matches the same angle. Next, press P to switch to perspective view and zoom out. Then move closer to the scene using the mouse scroll wheel. On the left side, you can see the perspective view, while on the right side, it looks more like an isometric view. This example isn't perfect, but it gives you an idea of the difference. Now to adjust the camera, I click on the right viewport, tweak the angle a bit and press Alt W to maximize the window. When we play the animation now, we can see that the main box goes out of the scene as it rises. To properly adjust the scene view, we first need to set up our video size. For this, go to the render setup. In the renderer section, select Corona and then in the common tab, adjust the video size. Since I want a horizontal video, I choose HDTV in the output size and set the resolution to 1920 by 1080. Now to see these dimensions in the viewport, click on the text at the top left that shows Corona camera, and here we need to activate show save frames. The shortcut for this, as you can see here, is Shift F. Output size of the video is now clearly shown in the viewport. Next, let's adjust the camera so that the main box doesn't go out of the scene. I move the camera slightly down and zoom out a bit more. To adjust it more accurately, go to the last frame of the animation and position the camera downward again. I think that's okay now. Let's play the animation. Looks good. To make it closer to an isometric view, we can also narrow the field of view. To achieve a more dynamic look, we also need to animate the camera. First, press P, switch to perspective view and select the camera's target point. Then press C again to return to the camera view. Activate Auto Key and bring the time slider to the point where the box reaches its highest position. Pull the target upward. When we play, you can see it moves together with the box. Just like before, go to the curve editor. Click on Scale Tangents up several times to increase the curve value. Now it looks just as we want. Clean and smooth. Now it's time to animate the camera. First press P to go to the perspective view, then go to the shapes panel, select circle and draw one anywhere in the scene. Since our main box is at the center, using the align tool to align the circle perfectly to it. If the parameters are correct, just press OK. Activate snap toggle, move the circle so it's at the same height as the camera. As you can see, it doesn't stick to the camera. For this, right click on snap toggle and open snap settings and activate pivot. Now it correctly recognizes the camera. Don't forget to deactivate pivot in snap settings afterward. Adjust the circle's radius so it touches the camera. It doesn't need to be very precise. Now link the camera to the circle using the link tool. When we rotate the circle, the camera also rotates with it. Press C to go back to the camera view and Alt W to the window. Then select the circle in the bottom left viewport and rotate it. You can see in the right camera view how the animation looks. Press Alt W to maximize the window. Activate Auto Key and rotate the selected circle on the Z axis to its first position. Then bring the time slider to the last frame and rotate the circle again to its final position. When we play it, everything looks great. But to achieve an infinite loop feel, the speed of this movement must remain constant from start to end. For this, go back to the curve editor and set the selected keyframes curves to linear. Play the animation now shows that it works perfectly. As you can see, there are some empty areas left in the background. My suggestion is to fill those areas by copying the nearby boxes. For this, switch to the top view. Select the 3 rows of the boxes at the top and copy them using Shift Move. Now to remove the grid from the background, press G key on the keyboard. Adjust the spacing so that it matches the others. In the same way, select the 3 rows of boxes on the right side and copy them as well. Press C, return to the camera view. Let's play the animation. Everything looks fine. Now let's move on to the material section. Open the material editor and click here to create a new material. In the pop-up window, click on materials and find Corona. From the Corona materials, select Corona Legacy material. I will name it main box material and assign it to the main box. Set the diffuse color to dark gray. To enlarge the preview of the material, double-click on the slot. I will make the diffuse color a bit darker. Looks good. Next, set the reflection level value to 1. As you can see, it reflects the environment clearly, but since we need a more blurry reflection, set the glossiness value to 0.7. To further increase the reflection, raise the reflection level to 3. You can see the reflection brightness instantly increased. Now let's check how this looks in the render interactively. Go to the render setup and from there go to the scene. Here we need to enable Start Interactive. But for a quicker way, right click on any viewport panel and activate the Corona toolbar. If it is not active, it's probably located somewhere below. Now click on the play icon like button to open the interactive render window. The reason the scene looks completely black is that there are no lights in the scene. For this, we need to add an HDR lighting first. Click on any material slot and then click Get Material. Choose Corona Bitmap. Double-click it and a window will open. From here, select the image you want to use. It's not actually in HDR format, but I know it works fine. And I will leave a download link below the video. So we have imported our HDR image. Next, go to the render setups. In the scene section, set the scene environment option to single map. Now drag the imported HDR image and drop into the node slot here. To see interactive change, choose instance and click OK. When we open the interactive render, we can see that the HDR is now lighting is our scene. Of course, we can change the direction of the light. First, press C to switch to the camera view. To work more comfortably, let's resize the render window a bit smaller. Now open the material editor and from the bitmap settings, adjust the U coordinate slightly. You can immediately see its effect here. Looks fine. Let's also adjust the V coordinate a little. That should be enough. As you can see, the light is falling softly onto the box. From the render window, increase the exposure to brighten the scene a bit more. Now let's prepare the material for the surrounded boxes. First, select all of them and group. Then click on another slot in the materials editor. Again, select Corona legacy material. Set the diffuse to a dark gray, almost black. Now let's assign this material to our select box group. Set the reflection value to maximum, and for blur reflection, set the glossiness value to 0.7. If you want to increase the reflection even further, you can raise the Fresnel eye value, just like we did with the previous material. To see the difference, double click on the main box material to enlarge it. New material as well and place them side by side. As you can see, the previous material looks shinier and more reflective. That's exactly why we use Fresnel eye. Now let's open the interactive render window. In the reflection section of the material, we can slightly reduce the reflection color to create more variation. Honestly, I don't think it looks good, so I'll cancel it. Maybe instead we can achieve the difference by increasing the reflection of our main box material. Let's go back to the material of the main box and set the Fresnel eye value to 10. It looks better. As you can see, the main box material is now shinier and stands out compared to surrounding boxes. We could also apply this material randomly to some of these boxes. Since they are grouped, let's go to the group menu and select open. Pick any of the boxes at the back and assign this material to it. You can immediately see the difference. Now let's randomly assign it to some other boxes as well. No need to select the same ones. Just pick whichever you like. The interactive render window is making it a bit harder to see, so let's shrink it and move it to the side. Now we can select boxes more easily. From the right side, let's pick 3 boxes and assign the material, and also select one of the edge and assign it. Looks pretty good. Now let's play the animation with the time slider. Everything looks fine. To brighten the scene a bit, increase the exposure value in the render window. Nice. We can also slightly lower the scene temperature. Now let's add some additional lights to the scene. Go to standard elements and lights. Switch to corner and choose corner light. Place it anywhere in the scene. Since it's below the ground plane, move it upwards so we can see it. Then use the align tool to align it with the main box. Press F3 to switch to wireframe view, and you will notice the light is inside the box. Now scrub the time slider forward a bit and you'll see the light illuminating the slot where the box rises from, as well as the bottom of the box. Move it slightly lower and change its color to red. It doesn't need to be too saturated. Looks great. When we play the animation, we can see the details clearly. Since the light is still selected, let's duplicate it, holding shift and moving it upward. Okay, let's place it somewhere in the lower right corner. To hide the light source from the render, uncheck the visible direct option in the light settings. Now the source is hidden. Move the light a little more to the right. Looks really good. The right number of well-placed lights can make even minimalist scenes look rich. That is why I will copy it again. Of course, you should use them carefully. You can also change the light color depending on your needs, but I will keep the red color, or maybe you can try white. Let's reduce the intensity. You can also see the difference by toggling the light on and off. Let's copy it once more. To understand it better, press P to switch to perspective view. Using Shift, move. Copy the light again and place it somewhere visible from the camera. Adjust it in the camera view. Maybe pull it a bit lower. When we play the animation, we can clearly see the light bars hitting the top of the box. I recommend lowering the light intensity. A value of 1 should be enough. And let's move it a bit lower. Increase the radius slightly and adjust the position as you like. I think reducing the intensity even further to about 0.3 looks better. Now let's play the animation again. When we play it, the red highlight falling from the right side looks a bit too strong. Let's move that light a little further to the right. Perfect. Now everything looks great. Finally, we have completed the lighting setup of our scene.
Let's move on to the render settings to learn how to export it as a video. Open render setup and first under the common tab set the video size. For this project I will choose Full HD 1920 by 1080 from the HDTV options. Then go to the scene tab and in the denoising mode select corner high quality. This way we can see how it works. Click render. As you can see while rendering, you notice small noise in the preview image. As more passes go by, the noise decreases. The more passes, the longer the render time. So instead of waiting for the noise to completely disappear, you can stop the render and denoising will kick in to clean up the remaining noise as much as possible. Of course, for professional work, I prefer to let more passes render, but this is the quick solution. Once the denoising process finished, if we zoom into the result, we can clearly see the noise reduction. You can check it by toggling it on and off. You can even set the value to 1, but I recommend around 0.6 to keep a bit of noise in the result. It also helps fix potential gradient banding issues. You can also activate the sharpening and blurring settings above. Set the sharpening amount to 2 and radius to 1. This adds a sharper effect to the image. You can notice the difference by toggling it. We got this result with 20 passes, which I think is fine. That is why setting the pass limit to 20 should be enough. One very important note, if you are rendering an animation, in render setup go to the performance settings. Under UHD cache, make sure to set the preset option to animation flicker free and the precision value to 2. When rendering an animation, the program renders each frame separately, so you might encounter flickering lights or strange light bursts in different frames. You need to be careful about this. Now from the common parameters, select active time segment so that all frames of the animation are rendered. Then choose the location where you want to save the animation and give it a name. As for the format, I recommend saving the frames instead of directly exporting as a video. Rendering as frames allows you to re-render and replace only the faulty frame, whereas with a video render, fixing such errors can be time-consuming and tricky. If you want very high quality results, you can choose Targa, though keep in mind that the file sizes will be very large. Since I'm doing a test render, I will use the GPA format for a smaller file size. After that, click Save. Now we can render. About an hour later, my render was finished and here is the result. So, how do we turn this sequence into a video? For this, you can use any editing program. I will use After Effects. Open the program and go to the project panel. Double-click in the empty space, navigate to the folder where you saved your animation frames and select any frame. Make sure to activate the Importer Sequence option below. Then click Import to bring the sequence into the project. Since we exported the video from 3D Studio Max at 30 frames per second, we need to make sure the imported sequence also matches 30 FPS. Right-click on the sequence, go to the Interpret Footage and Main. As you can see, it's already set to 30, so no need to change anything. Click OK. Now drag the sequence onto the composition icon to create a new composition. To view it in the best quality, set the playback quality to full. And here is our final result.
I hope this video helped you learn some new essential tips. If you want more videos like this, hit like and follow me.